This film is intended to celebrate the golden wedding anniversary of Michael and Catherine Magnotta, who happen to be the parents of my beloved wife and my father-in-law. This took place on July the 5th, 1956, and I now dedicate this picture to my wife, Angie, for Christmas 1984. As you can see, here are all the characters that combine their talents to make this film possible. Now, it took place, the wedding, the anniversary, the religious part of the anniversary took part in St. John's Church in Albion, which incidentally is the same church in which I was married to Angie. And here is the church, commonly remembered as the point of no return. And there is Grandpa Magnotta and Grandpa Catherine. The celebrant of this Mass is Father Francis Martin, who is then the pastor of St. John's in Albion. He is now the pastor of the Church of the Resurrection in Lansing. By now, these innocent-looking little altar boys there are no longer little boys. Most all of them are parents, and indeed some of them grandparents by now. Now there is two of the most wonderful people that I could imagine. You have heard all those hackneyed stories about perils with mothers and fathers-in-law. Well, I can candidly and happily say that I would have been proud to have either as my parents. They're beloved by everybody that knew them. And the reason that they were so loved is that they lived by a creed that was more concerned with what they could give than what they should get. Perhaps not consciously realizing that it is in giving that we do get, and there is no other way. And that is sister-in-law Tana Reynolds. She of the beautiful voice, who's going to do the melodies at this Mass, and I'm sorry we can't bring them over this microphone. Now, of course, I was working in the vantage point of up there in the choir loft, and it's the only chance I ever had to look down on all my in-laws. Tana was bridesmaid at my own wedding, and she has participated ever since on every occasion, family occasion, that was at all auspicious. I know she's blinking a little bit in the lights because the camera I had to use was a Bell & Howell 8mm camera, and there was a light bar on it with 4 big lights, just like a couple of automobiles coming at you. So I feel sorry for the people, but that's the only way that you could get a picture in those days. Antionette, Dick, my own daughter Catherine, Brother Michael Magnotta, that's my little spouse right there, just kissing a friend. And there's poor Jack. By now he's gone to his eternal reward, and so is Aunt Beulah here. God rest their souls. Of course, unfortunately, I could say that about a lot of people in this film by now. Fortunately, I'm still here to be able to talk about it. Now here we are at the Parker Inn. Parker Hotel and Inn in Albion. It was a beautiful little place. By now there is no more Parker Inn and Hotel, but there is a Holiday Inn out on the Cloverleaf. That's how things go. Oh, this must be Fawn's twins. And they are being held by Grandpa and Grandma Magnotta. Hello, Santo. And Mary Ann. And Catherine. Melissa and Artie. And Aunt Josie. And hello, Mark. You've come a long way, Mark. That's right. Everybody eating except the photographer. Hello, Adeline. And her husband, Jimmy. Dick and Joe Cosgrove. Hi, Antionette. Angie, Catherine, Mickey, and Michael. That's our little brood. Well, anyway, everybody must have been hungry because they do look busy. Here's Uncle Mike in Magnotta, one of two sons born to the original Magnotta family. Well, the photographer himself gets a little rest. A lot of erosion has set in since those balmy days. Hello, Grandma. Says, what do we got here? Now that could have only come from a banker's son. The late Father Sloy. There we go, Grandma gets a gift. That is a charm bracelet that her children got together and got that gold charm bracelet and all the little medals on it. Each one bears the name of one of her children. Had there been any more children, they would have had to have gotten her two bracelets. George Seibel, Father Martin, Father Owens from Battle Creek, Fawn's there in the middle. Now, following the wedding ceremony at St. John's Church, where would there be in a town like Albion something large enough to hold this celebration? Well, naturally, it's the National Guard Armory. So we're wending our way over to the armory in celebration of a great marriage and in a place that is entrusted with the protection of the public peace. There is Uncle Frank Magnotta, who came in from Pittsburgh, and his dear wife. Both of them have left this world by now. Now the reception line has started over to the armory. And Dad and Mother are happily meeting their many, many friends. If they had any enemies, I never heard of it. But Grandpa and Grandma Magnotta, they had 8 children, and by this time, 42 grandchildren. So Dad Magnotta once said that anybody with a family of this size thinks the idea of universal peace is simply funny. Oh, the place was full that day, and there was very much rejoicing. Old friends, some of them from great distances, had a chance to meet again, and these people are close. They're family. They're family people. And this was a celebration, not just of this particular anniversary, but it was also a celebration of family. The late Art Faggion. Yep, I remember Dad Magnotta saying that money doesn't win you any new friends, but it sure raises the class of your enemies. Yeah, and that's the way it is. Frank Seibel, Mrs. Seibel, Matt, neighbors of the Magnottas. I think this is Dutch Osmond. That's right. Now everybody's going to eat again. Oh, it's time to cut the cake. And isn't it a dandy? Well, I guess that everybody that can cut the mustard will live to cut the cake. All right, folks, come and get it. Yep. Dad Magnotta simply told us, he says it is true, perhaps, that marriages are made in heaven, but so is thunder and lightning. That was Art Fagin's banner. I can't quite remember his name. Then I hadn't better try to say it. Hi, Margaret. Patsy DeVitri. How are you, Patsy? Patsy's living in Florida now. And oh, those little grandchildren. They're approaching their terrible twos. But count your blessings. Things are going to get worse. And here is the traditional anniversary waltz. Yes, sir, Victor is still making the music. He was in the Army band in World War I, and he never quit enjoying his music. And he played on every occasion, and that's the way that you ought to go. Steinbarger. There's Marie Howell. She taught the Magnotta children in school years before this event. Yes, sir. There's a couple of cute cookies. Hi, Beulah and Angie. Children number 1 and number 2 to the Magnotta family. John Cascarelli. Josie Adeline. Frank Cascarelli. Most of them tavern owners. All successful men. Too many of them have departed this earth. As Fons himself here was. He lived to be president of the bank, a circuit court judge. Then tragically, one afternoon he dropped dead at home with no warning whatsoever at age 50. Well, as the shadows lengthen, everybody's starting to wend their way home. That's right, those would make a good handful. Well, Grandma, what are you going to do Christmas? Do you ever watch the kids around when somebody else is opening up a present? They can hardly wait. Well, all good things come to an end. And here, Uncle Frank, who's a brother to Grandpa there, he's got to get on the flight plane in Lansing and head back to Pittsburgh, where he has his family and his business. But we're all there to see them off. Now, this is apart from the anniversary. This is the homes of different children of the Magnottas. This is the Calderon home in Battle Creek, Santo and Beulah. Santo was a distributor. His main line was a global beer and wine, and his firm was the Albion Beverage Company. Very successful. And this is his business place. Just a little family nostalgia. Because these things change. When you see this picture, you will know what I mean. There's Santo himself, proudly posed in front of enough beer to free Ireland. Now, this is Fonz's business place. He organized and was president of the Bank of Albion. He was president of the bank for a number of years. Maybe that's why they say if Dillinger were alive today, he wouldn't be robbing banks, he'd be starting one. This is the ancestral home where I found my own wife. And Dad and Mother Magnotta and all of their 8 children all resided here over many struggling but happy years. Oh yes, this is Jimmy Young's business, his Tasty Freeze. Well, that Tasty Freeze grew and grew and grew until it was about the whole block. And he has a coin-operated laundromat in the same general area, and a drugstore, Young's Drugs. Now this is the home of Tana and Jack Reynolds. And that's the coon hound out in the backyard, the high Tana. And there is Jack himself. Unfortunately, Jack died out of time. This is a little place of business there. The snack shop. That's right. Now I think we've switched over to Lansing. And this is Joe and Dick's house, if I am not mistaken. And this is Brother Mikey's house on Delta River Drive. His son has now built a unique house just to the right of this one a little bit. You ought to take a look at it. He did it himself. Shows a lot of creativity. And what do you know? This is Chez Moi. That's the place where Angie and I and our children lived. Now it is just Angie and I and Heidi. Here's the folks visiting us, and we're out on the front porch. Looks rather comfortable, doesn't it? Well, anyway, all good things come to an end. And this will be coming to an end in just a little bit. I think a splice just come loose on that, but it's nothing any more serious than that. And this was Art and Antionette Faggion United Piping and Erection Company in Lansing. Also very successful. Are we still on the air? Yes. Okay, folks, this is it. We'll see you in church.